How about you, Rupper? When you hear about players coming back to their hometown, to their home state, what does it make you think?
Oh, it's great. It's great from the standpoint of a lot of players, and most players probably dream of doing that. I just find, and I'm not saying it's going to happen here in Detroit, but from my experience, sometimes there's such a slim margin from winning and losing this league that guys that go home, it doesn't always work out, right? And it takes, not that you go there and you have a different mindset, but just you're going to go there, it's going to be different. Like, you're going to deal with things. Maybe like a guy like Dylan Larkin's not going to be much different because that's what he came into the league doing, right? But some of these other guys, like, all of a sudden now you're having people come out of the woodwork, people you went to school with. It becomes more of a circus, and your job is to go in to play the game. And maybe it's better when you don't have some of those requests and those big moments. Or, you imagine playoff time and you're playing for the hometown team that you grew up watching, all your friends watched, and the requests. I mean, if your head's not on straight, I'm not insinuating any of these guys are that, you could take the edge off you a little bit, right? So I just that's one thing. It usually when I was in Minnesota, there was a big push where everyone wants to get their buddies in there. Minnesota guys. I grew up with this guy. And it's doesn't always work, right? And that's the one thing that's kind of it makes me think about it.
It's a subplot.
It definitely makes me think about it, but I think Steve Yzerman knows what he's doing here when you look at the additions. Like, these are good adds for what the team needs. Just keep that edge, boys. Like, your business is business. You're there to win hockey games.
The hometown discount is great when you can get it, right? You're bringing guys in from free agency, and maybe you save a few $1 million on the salary cap. That goes a long way. I understand what you're saying about the distractions, and we heard them talk about how tough the Atlantic's going to be. Like, when I'm slotting it 1 through 8, it's really difficult, so there is no room for error. You can't have a time where you've got 3 guys trying to settle in and get used to playing in their home state, in their home city. On the flip side of it, I don't even look at all the Michiganders coming back. I look at how much roster turnover there was in this hockey team, and I'm a big Steve Yzerman fan. He's been my favorite player since I was young, and I trust the process that he has. And perhaps when you don't get the results, you bring in so many people and pieces. But I'm counting 8 guys on opening night out of 20 skaters that you can dress. You're going to have 8 guys brand new in the lineup. Some guys on 1-year deals, some guys you brought in for more. There's a lot of puzzle pieces that are being moved around, and perhaps this is a sign for Detroit Red Wings fans that Steve Yzerman's close. He brought in a couple 1-year deals. Those could be moved out, or perhaps things could work. But we're getting to that point that you need to see the results, and incremental growth is great. But I think as Detroit fans that are so accustomed to winning, you want to see it very, very soon.
Rupper, when he says results, I immediately think of the 7-year playoff drought and how that doesn't go down smooth for fans of the Winged Wheel. Who needs to step up for Detroit to get them back into the dance?
Oh, man, I mean, they need collectively to be they seem like over the last few years they've had great moments, great starts to their seasons where you're like, all right, they're in this mix here. But then they always have that stretch where they drop off, right? And I think it's just about you're going to go through stretches in an NHL season. You've got to learn how to navigate through those waters and get wins when maybe you don't deserve them. Get points in games when you don't deserve them. So it's easy one's leadership, but it's the progression for some of these young players I think will help out tremendously because Steve Yzerman went out and he added a lot of these pieces, and they have specified roles. They should have specified roles to come in here. Derek Lalonde, it'll be his job to, all right, this is how this is going to all fit together. This is what we're asking of you. This is what we're asking of you. Because they've got that. JT Compher and Andrew Kopp, like, I love that center ice. Like, you talk about those 4 center icemen, I really, really like that center ice. Now, how is everybody going to fit together? You got gamers like David Perron. I think you're going to lean on his experience. But I would look at probably their back end, a couple young players. They bring in a Jeff Petrie to help out with these young players. If they could take that next step, we've talked about the talent pool on their back end for quite some time. Are they ready to take that next step? If they are, this team could be very dangerous.
Yeah, the people I'm thinking need to step up are the guys that have impressed me so much earlier in their career. You look at Mo Seider, enormous right-handed defenseman, poised, cool, physical, does a bit of everything. Won the Calder Trophy. I'm a huge fan of this guy, and he needs to take a step. If the Detroit Red Wings are going to be a playoff hockey team, Mo Seider needs to be great. And I'm not saying that because he hasn't been. I'm saying it because he has the potential. This is fun stuff to watch for a young kid. And Lucas Raymond up front. He flashed so many times, and the future's bright for him. take command, take control. I think that's what Steve Yzerman wants. I think that's what Derek Lalonde wants. That's what this room wants, is to feed off of these young guys. So those are the two guys in particular that could make the change. The most glaring thing, lastly, any team can't win without goaltending. You bring in James Reimer, he's quietly gone about his business and been very good. And then you've got Billy Husso and these other names that you added last year in free agency. It's all got to mesh. You can't do any of it without the save. So
I mentioned Raymond. I texted our former colleague, Alex Tanguay, this past season, and I said, that kid's amazing. I love watching him play. He texts back 3 words: everybody loves Raymond. Oh, thanks. So funny.